I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for May 6, 2025. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Please join us for a moment of silence, and Councilmember Amaya, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first out, we have general public comment. This is for public comment on anything that's not the school board. Do we have anyone signed up for that? Or anyone who's not signed up who still wants to make general public comment? Nope.
You have someone that was signed up.
Is that for general public comment, or is that school board?
That was general, right? Oh, the lady right there in black. Was yours going to be general, or was it for school board?
You know what, I'm new. This is my first time, so forgive me.
Are you speaking on behalf of one of the school board candidates?
I'm here to talk about the raising of the water bill.
Okay, come on up.
Well, I don't really have, I wasn't planning on speaking.
Oh, okay, you're just here to listen.
Yeah, and I'm against it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Okay. You obviously feel free to stay. And at the end, we have another public comment time if you want to say something then.
Yeah, I really
Sure.
want to just learn and listen a little bit more. Thank you
Okay.
very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out. All right, school board, public hearing. Tonight we have a public hearing regarding school board candidates. I declare the public hearing open. We have one emailed submission from Sibby Matthew. He writes, "It is my absolute pleasure to write this letter of recommendation for my friend and former colleague, Jen Moyers, whom I have the privilege of working alongside for the past 6 years. This entire letter can be read online under our packet for today." And we have one person signed up for public comments today. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I'm Anne-Marie Kinsler. I live at 9320 Michael Court, and I'm here in support of Jen Moyers for school board. I've known Jen for, more than 10 years now, and I think that would be a great addition to the school board. She's very involved with her children's education. She's very interested in making sure that our schools work for everyone, from the gifted kids to the regular ed kids to the special ed kids. I think her skill set is necessary on the school board. I think she's going to make a wonderful addition, and I support her wholeheartedly, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who's not signed up who would like to make public comment for the public hearing? All right, seeing no one, I will declare the public hearing closed. The appointments will be made at our next meeting on May 13th. All right, presentations. First up, we have a proclamation for National Prevention Week 2025. Whereas substance abuse, misuse, and mental health problems affect all communities nationwide, the substance use, prevention, and mental health landscape continues to evolve to better meet the pressing issues of today. The impact of mental health and substance misuse disorders is apparent in our local community. We have the power to change lives by enhancing community and individual protective factors to make substance-free lives an easier choice and assistance with mental health challenges easier to access. Whereas, with commitment and support, substance misuse, addiction, and mental health issues can be prevented. The focus of National Prevention Week is to change the prevention landscape by providing evidence-based and accessible resources to facilitate collective action and story sharing. By showcasing the work of our partners in prevention, we can confront the societal challenges surrounding substance misuse together while celebrating the stories of prevention. Whereas, through National Prevention Week and the work of Prince William County Community Services Wellness and Prevention Team and the Prevention Coalition of Greater Prince William, people become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental health and substance use disorders. Equally important, community members from all walks of life learn how they can help implement prevention strategies, and showcase the effectiveness of evidence-based programs. Whereas we need to recognize the seriousness of substance use and mental health issues in our communities, the power of prevention, and the tireless efforts of those working to make a difference. The small daily actions done by individuals combined with the actions of families, communities, and coalitions come together to make up the larger, bold movement of prevention. For the above reasons, I am asking the residents of the City of Manassas Park to join me in celebrating National Prevention Week 2025 this May by engaging in a learning or engagement activity hosted by the Prince William County Community Services Wellness and Prevention Team. I, Alana Mensing, Mayor, do hereby proclaim May 11th, 2025 as National Prevention Week in the City of Manassas Park and call upon our community to join us this week in celebrating the compelling strategies and resources that support increasing awareness of and action around mental health and/or substance use disorders year-round. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Is there anyone here for the proclamation? Nope. All right, we will mail that. Next up, we have a resolution for the Heavy Construction Contractors Association. Recognizing Heavy Construction Contractors Association for the community service project Signal Hill Park Softball Field. Whereas the City of Manassas Park is proud of our community parks in the fact that the city has the most park land per community size and population in all of Northern Virginia. And whereas the city has been aggressively pursuing grants and public-private partnerships to assist with addressing infrastructure needs to reduce the burden on our residents. And whereas in March 2025, the city received an in-kind donation of a community service project from Heavy Construction Contractors Association, HCCA, in which the softball field at Signal Hill Park was renovated. And whereas over the course of 3 days, HCCA worked on the softball field, removing the infield grass and dirt, adding and leveling new high-quality infield mix, placing fresh sod around the infield, and installing brand-new bases to improve the overall condition of the field. And whereas the city is grateful to HCCA and all of its members and volunteers for their generous efforts to serve our community and taxpayers thousands of taxpayer dollars, and therefore be it proclaimed that the governing body of Manassas Park, Virginia, expresses its gratitude to Heavy Construction Contractors Association for providing a generous donation to the City of Manassas Park with its improvement of the softball field at Signal Hill Park, and be it further proclaimed that the governing body of Manassas Park, Virginia, personally thanks all volunteers who worked on this project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I want to take a minute to thank Councilmember Hudson for coming out tonight, and Vice Mayor Moore will present the proclamation and say a few words. Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, just one comment. And that is, it was amazing contribution from HCCA. I believe it totaled close to $19,000 worth of labor and materials and work that they did to our softball fields at Signal Hill Park. And again, just thank Ashley and the crew at HCCA for all the wonderful work you've provided to our city at no cost to any of our residents. So again, thank you for that donation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you're all welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but if you want to get up and go, we don't
we don't
judge. All right, next up is the consent agenda. Tonight, the consent agenda includes approval of the minutes from April 15th and 29th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Resolution zoning amendment regarding lot coverage code amendment.
Yeah, so I'll kind of, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of governing body. So I'll kind of set the stage for this agenda. Last month, Community Development staff presented to you all on the topic of expanding lots, driveway coverage, especially, particularly on single-family detached lots. And there was some interest in kind of seeing whether this is allowable. And currently in our code, we do discuss driveway coverage in the front yard, but nothing for the side or the rear yard. And because we've seen over the years, there's a lot of expansion, especially on the homes in the west side, that has had really a negative impact on the impervious coverage for backyard, for runoffs, things like that. And so this resolution is essentially intended for you all to give us permission to start the research and come back with proposed zoning text amendment to kind of address that issue, the side and the back lot in terms of what can be built, et cetera. And then additionally, we'll work with Dean, legal our attorney. We'll run through the normal land use process, such as public hearing, plan commission, and ultimately back to you all for approval. So this is just to start the process.
Any questions? Start down here.
No questions.
No question.
Questions, comments? Yep.
When would it start, and what would are we going to hire a consultant or do it in-house?
I believe that we've already got some, we've already did some staff work initially when you guys first expressed the interest. I think it's been several months, and we have a draft ZODA in the city attorney queue for review.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Keith.
All right, staff recommendation is that the governing body adopt a resolution initiating a zoning ordinance text amendment for maximum lot coverage and grading plan requirements for single-family detached lots as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next up, tax rate, utility rates, and budget for FY '26.
All right, good evening again. So this is really just to remind you all about the agreed upon not to exceed rates from the last meeting. So I'm just going to refresh your memory. But before I do that, there was a request to see what the 37% increases for the water sewer, for the enterprise fund, and what that means in terms of impacts to residents. So I'm going to show that first and then refresh your memory on what was proposed from last meeting. Okay, so this is the math. I'll kind of explain how this works out. So currently, these are the rates for the water sewer fund. This is the cost for usage total per T gallon, and we're assuming that the average person uses 5,000. So obviously, if you use more, then the cost is higher, and lower if you use less. And so the current rate comes out to be about $50 a month, as you see here. If you increase it to 37%, that's the actual increase for the new total. And so if you take this number, the monthly fee, and you times it by 5,000, that's what you get, and then you total all, or I'm sorry, this number here times 5,000 plus these two equals 68. So that's the new monthly cost. And then, the total monthly goes from 103 to 142 for an increase of about $38 a month, so about 460 something a year. So that's kind of how you read this chart. So that's the impact if you were to go with the full 30% increase to the water sewer. I'll kind of pause here for a second before I go back to the refresh memory on the rates.
All right, any comments, questions on this, starting down here? No? No comments?
I'll wait till the end.
Yep. Anyone?
All right, so these were the proposed tax and fees from the last meeting. Obviously, for real estate, say 1 cent reduction, 1.395, and I know there was some interest in seeing the analysis for 1.5 and 2 cents, which we can bring back to you all. And then the percentage increase for the different enterprise fund, as you see there, and all the changes are reflected in the right column, the fiscal year 26 rates. And so, for example, for water, it goes from 4.07 to 4.68. For sewer, 677 to 779, and then you scroll all the way down for some of the refuse and recycling on the bottom three there. So those are the new rates if you were to adopt this model, the 1 cent reduction, 15% and 10%.
Okay. So today, what we need to direct staff is what to advertise for the not to exceed. So if we were to advertise this, we could still increase less
Correct.
or reduce real estate more. But
Correct.
this is a not to exceed cap for today.
And ideally, the goal is to hold a public hearing on June 3rd.
Mhm.
And so, we want to get it in the newspaper so you have enough time to do that.
Yeah, so we need to come up with a consensus today. Want to start down here? Comments, questions? How are you feeling about this?
I don't want to land here ultimately. I'm very much in favor of a 2-cent reduction in real estate and then no increases on the water. But for consensus not to exceed, I'm okay with this for today.
Okay. Next.
I think when you do a 2-cent rate reduction, I don't know why for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we haven't got that, but I think we should advertise at 138.5. I don't think there should be any increase in water. As I mentioned last week, and it came out over the last day in an email, that the water has been paying other departments, and that's not transparent to the residents. And the argument was that the water needed assistance, that it was failing. And it's not. It's paying for other departments at a high percentage. It pays 30% of our legal, 12% of our HR, 20% of our IT. There's a cost of business. It's probably about 5%, but it's not that. It pays 68%, I think it was, or 63% of our finance department. In our treasurer's office, it pays, I think it was 66%. And again, we have to be transparent with the residents, and they think water pays for water, for the staff, for the capital, for the inflation, and for the maintenance, not to fund other parts of the department of the city. Especially when we're telling you that we have to raise the water, it's going to fail. It's not going to fail. It's other parts of the government are failing. So I don't favor any increase in water, and I'm glad we have elections in '26, so this can be a major issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, my opinion is that we should advertise 1 cent and then work towards the 2 cents reduction and don't increase the water or sewage.
So are you okay with voting for the increases today, or advertising the increases, but working towards it, or are you against?
I do not want to advertise increase in the water, but I think we should advertise 1 cent for property tax, and if we get it down to 2 cents, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. For advertising purposes, I support what's being presented tonight, the 1 cent. Given the fact that we can go up to 2%, I support 2%, but this gives us flexibility. As Councilmember Carrera stated, there's some analysis that we've yet to receive that I'd like to receive. I know things are rushed and we've had people on vacations and things of that nature. So this just, for me, in my mind, it gives us time to get the data and the information to make informed decisions, and that's what I'd like to see happen. So I could deal with this knowing that this may not be the final rates that we vote on in June. So I want residents to know that even though we adopt these as it's required by law that we advertise a couple weeks before our hearing, that this may not be the final rates. And also they should understand that we cannot go any higher than the advertised rate. So it will be anything below what we advertise, at or below. So with that said, I support the charts that's before us today.
Yes, I agree with what the Vice Mayor was saying. These might not be the final rates that we vote on in June, but for the purposes of having maximum rates, I support the consensus as is.
Hi, thank you, Keith. I'm not in favor of keeping. I am in favor of keeping the water and sewer as is current rate, not advertising the increased rate. With that, I understand what my colleagues are saying here, but we could advertise $10 water rate. Would that look good for the public? No, I don't think so. I mean, we need to let the residents know that there's no perception of an increase coming. So that's why I think even advertising at the current rate shows a commitment to our residents saying that, hey, we will control spending, we will limit our taxes, we will not do an increase, and we will tackle the real estate tax accordingly. I mean, I'm okay with the 1 cent going down to 2 cents, but advertising the water rate with the increase, I am not in favor for. And that's just not doing justice to our community. I mean, we also have a responsibility to make sure that people can afford living here. You know, every year we did an increase in water and sewer last year, and then we're doing it again this year. I mean, every year we're increasing the cost of living here in Manassas Park, and so we just got to consider that. So for today, 1 cent is okay. Well, I mean, we could advertise 2 cents because I think the staff could go back and figure out the 2 cents model, and then no increase on the water and sewer, advertised as today.
Okay, so I am in favor of advertising for this, knowing that we are gonna work towards finding another cent off real estate and evaluate some of these fees.
Okay.
So that is 4 for advertising as is.
As is, that's in these numbers here.
Yes.
Just okay.
Yep, and I urge residents to come out between now, June 3rd is the public hearing, come speak. If you can't come in person, you can email it, you can also watch on YouTube. Any meeting before then would also be appropriate. I believe our vote is June 20th. All right, that is that. Next up is cash flow Q&A.
Yeah, so if you recall, we've had a couple of instances historically where our treasurer office has informed us that we're running low on cash, and so there was an interest on sort of just a quick discussion about it. And so I went back and did a quick high overview slide, and I'll kind of explain that today. But before I get into that, you know, really there's 3 different things that staff does on an annual basis. You know, we budget, which means that we use budgeting basis, and really, you know, budgeting is a planning tool. We use a lot of best practices, balanced budget, operating versus CIP, balanced budget for revenue and expenditure. But really, the key points is that revenue on a budget basis is recognized when we have the legal authority to collect. And then expenditure is recorded when liability is incurred and expended, which is, you know, from us, when we plan revenue and expenditure, we kind of work up of a budget basis for the year. When the actual transaction occur, what the finance team does is they usually use accrual basis to recognize the revenue. And there's some similarities, some overlap. There's also some distinctions. And really the main distinction has to do with 2 things: treatments of the transactions and then the timing of the transactions. So for accrual basis, you record revenue when it's earned, when the goods is delivered or the service is rendered, with no regard to when the payment is received, right? And then for expenses, you record the expenses when it occur, even when the payment is made later. And then ultimately, when we do get the payment, right, the payment goes to the treasurer, and that's cash. Some of it may be credit, but most of it is cash. And that's kind of where you see finance interact with treasurer when they do the bank rec, to tie accrued basis to cash basis. And so ultimately, what I'm saying is that your revenue numbers on a budget basis might not tie directly and neatly to your cash number at the end of the year because of the timing differences and because of some of the treatments. So just 2 quick examples. Let's say I budget $10 for revenue, and someone couldn't make the payment, and resident opted to do 2 payments of $5 each. But me, when that first payment hits all the way to the bank account, that's $5 cash, but the other $5 is essentially account receivable that is tracked on an accrual basis on the balance sheet. So budget $10 on accrual basis, but only $5 cash. And so you can kind of see the difference. And then when you scale up volumes of transaction across multiple years, there is a small difference between the numbers. So all of that's to say that, you know, when you look at the revenue, and I kind of went through the slide, trim it down a little bit to be high level. As you can see on our revenue chart, the bulk of our revenue is personal property tax. And we do have some delinquency, but we collect about 98%. And so when you run through all of the numbers, really we have 3 tranches where we get the real estate and personal property tax in. That's usually, October for personal property and December and June for real estate. And then when you look at it, right, I mentioned best practice for budgeting is a balanced budget. So every dollar for revenue should have a dollar for expenditure. And so when you look at the corresponding expenditure, you kind of equalize based on our appropriation schedule, which we usually front load debt and CIP. You kind of see the numbers worked out there. Now, again, these are high level numbers, they're not exact. But usually the windows that we are most at risk on an annual basis is between the first personal property and the first real estate. And it makes sense, right? You think about it, we've had operational challenges in terms of staff capacity. So when you crank out 2 different tax bill in a very short amount of time, that adds to the stress. And so when you push it back, you end up doing 2 things. One, you kind of put us in a precarious cash situation. And 2, you lose out on the time value of money by the money that we would have gotten in, earning interest in that lapse. And so 2 things. So what do you do when you're low on cash? Well, that's where fund balance comes in. That's why most jurisdictions have assigned fund balance for operating rainy day cash. That's exactly when you would use it. So, but just want to show that really quickly to kind of explain it. Every time we push real estate or personal property a month, it does have an impact on cash flow as well as potential lost interest earned. So. That's it.
Any questions? We'll start down this way this time.
No,
So just to, my understanding was that the interest was pretty negligible. I think, we don't really earn that much. And as a city, we don't have we're not in the business of investing at 5 to 7%.
Right, because we're a jurisdiction, we can't take risky assets investment. So we're really relegated to risk-free, which for us is really money market. So right now it's hovering around 3.5 to 4. I did some interest analysis a while back, but you're right, it's negligible. I want to say it's like 10,000 or something like that.
And then my second question is, do you, in your opinion, do you think that this is, given the fact that we do have a fund balance that we can kind of tap into and then replenish when the tax revenue comes in, do you think that this is an issue, something that we should worry about or stay awake at night about, or is it more, hey, this is a part, the mechanics of what happens, and you should be aware of it as you make decisions around revenue collection?
Well, I hate to say both, but from a mechanic perspective, right, yes, you should know that we usually have some challenges in that first block because of staffing capacity that has a financial impact. But 2, it depends on the situation, right? So right now, our fund balance is okay. We have about 15%. Some of that is earmarked for certain projects that are coming up. Some of that, we really want the inflow to match the outflow as a best practice on an annual basis. We don't really want the inflow to be lower than the outflow every year and have to supplement it using reserve. Because what if there's an accident or emergency that year as well? Really, fund balance is reserved meant for those contingency. So we really want $10 in to pay for $10 out. We don't want to have to use reserve and then wait for money to come in to replenish it. Because when you do that and an emergency happens, then you have to tap even more reserve if you have left. So that's really the challenge. And that's I think the other impact that I haven't touched on here too is impact to residents. Like, who would want to wait on their tax bill and then get hit by a month they least expected it? So I think that's impact to both sides. It's better just to be on a rhythm.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
Thank you for the presentation, Keith. I somewhat think a complex subject, but you've handled it very well. What impact does it have on our cash flow when we, as a council, extend deadlines for property tax and for PPP, personal property and real estate tax?
So it depends on the year. This past year, I know the treasurer has raised an alarm once. I think we were probably okay, by extending a couple months there. But it just depends on where our fund balance is. I hate to say yes or no either way. So for example, I think we briefed this in the public that we're going to use some of our fund balance to get the B&B project going, right? So that fund balance can be lower. And some of that is earmarked for certain things. So I wouldn't want us to, if you look at these numbers, right, $4 million a month is a lot. We don't have that much fund balance if we miss taxes, right? Like, you may be able to cover 1 month, maybe 2, but if we keep pushing, then we're gonna run into a cash crunch.
Okay. I think we've extended for almost a couple months.
Yeah.
I mean, for various reasons, and probably righteous reasons, but it does have an impact on our cash flow.
And unfortunately, people can't, can be delinquent paying us, but as a jurisdiction, we can't really be delinquent paying other people, unfortunately. So our outflows are going to be what they are.
Thank you, Keith.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, do we have an idea if it's going to be late this time for July?
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I want to say we're okay at this
Okay.
point, but I need to check with them.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
I don't have any, thank you.
All right, thank you, Keith, for going over that. We have arrived at our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? No? Okay. City manager report, anything?
I don't have anything, but I know that Dean has a topic he would like to bring up to you guys. Dean?
Yeah, good evening. I want to brief you real quickly on a little snag we've had with the Dominion project. You may remember that this is the upgrade of the transmission lines that run along the south and east of the railroad tracks, mostly through, and in the city, mostly through Blooms Park, and then also into the commuter rail lot. We had asked that one of those poles be moved closer to the railroad tracks as part of that project, and they agreed to do it, but we have to grant them an easement. And we've run into a little bit of a snag with the easement because we have to have a public hearing, and because of the advertisement requirements that we have, as soon as we can get it before you is the 20th of this month. They had planned to do a switchover on the 15th. Now, I don't know what that entails. Calvin's available if there are any specific technical questions, but they asked me if there's any way that we could allow them to continue their project before the 20th. And the only thing I could think of is to give them a license to go in there and do what they need to do, with the contingent upon the fact that if the governing body doesn't approve that easement, they're going to have to remove whatever infrastructure they install there. I don't know if they're going to be okay with that, but that's the only thing I can think of. And I just want to present that to you, see if you'd be willing to allow the city manager to sign such a letter. It typically is a letter of permission that grants a license to go in and do something. We've done it in the past for other developments. I don't really see any other way to do this based upon the state constitution and then also the supporting legislation from the General Assembly. So I'll answer any questions I can, but at the end of this, I'd really like to have a vote to authorize the city manager to approve a license for it if Dominion agrees to allow them to go in there and do their work. Now, they can do some of the work in their existing easement. We're basically just removing a dog leg in the easement line to get that out of a little bit closer to the railroad tracks. So I'll answer any questions you have at this point.
Dean, do you know where this pole is?
Yeah, right now I believe it's in the roundabout there in the southern part of the parkway, or the southern part of the parking area.
Oh, is this the one that
city
they want to
area.
move into that little island?
Yeah, it's gonna go in the island.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, into the island, yeah.
Yeah, right now it's just in another grassy area, island peninsula, or parking peninsula, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
But it's in one of those peninsula areas now. It will be relocated to the island.
And by moving it allows the city at some point, if we decide to develop that and build another garage somewhere else on that site, it allows us to have more flexibility in what we put on that site. So it was nice of them to agree to do it, but now we have to get past this easement issue.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Ms. Beck?
Where's the pole?
Yeah, exactly, that's what I want to know.
It's in the
Where,
VR
do we have a map or anything we can show?
Parking lot?
No?
Can you pull up Google Maps and show the VRE parking lot? When you drive into the VRE parking lot, there's that roundabout.
Oh, yeah.
They want to put it in that roundabout.
And this was
Gotcha.
approved
Okay.
before?
Yes.
I thought he said.
So Darryl,
No,
right now.
it's over
I
to the
kinda-
side.
So
Yes,
it's not
So if
in
you
the.
look
ra-
right
it's not-
now along the,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Calvin?
Along the railroad tracks, on the other side from City Hall, there's a bunch of those power poles. If they were going along their natural course, would continue right along the railroad tracks. For some reason, back in the 90s, when this easement was granted, they did a dog leg out into across the parking lot into the grassy area. And that creates a little bit of a problem if we ever wanted to develop that area. So they agreed to pull it in closer to the railroad tracks so it follows its natural course.
So there's going to be
Thank you, Dean.
a pole
Well,
with a line above the parking lot going into the center.
It's already there.
It's already there, so,
I wish we could do this up.
yeah, do you guys have a map? I also have a
She showed
map. Great, thanks.
Calvin, can you bring it up?
Because it sounds terrible.
now.
It's already there, they're moving it from here to here.
Is the wires underground?
But it's going in the center of the, there's no pole in the center
Okay.
of that roundabout, is there?
Oh, there
Right
you
now?
You see, when you pull in right now, this is pulling directly into the VRE. You see the rusty pole on the right?
Yeah.
So that would move to the island where you see the clump of trees to the left.
So now it's going to look like a bullseye.
Yeah, well, right now, the lines kind of jog off to that rusty pole there, and this would just pull it in line with the rest of the poles. Yeah, it's gonna be right in the middle of that.
Should have undergrounded it,
I agree.
but it's expensive.
I
I know it's high voltage.
Yeah, the high voltage stuff,
It's
undergrounding it
expensive.
is, I think it gets contentious with the distributors.
Yeah.
There's problems with undergrounding the high voltage stuff, so they don't really mind undergrounding the low voltage circuits.
All right, are there any comments, questions down here to my left? Anyone?
No.
You already approved putting it there, correct? That it's okay to put there?
Yes.
We asked them to put it there.
Well,
So we're not approving the location, we're approving just the easement?
we're not approving the easement tonight because that has to go before a
Or the
public hearing.
license,
That's-
to approval that the mayor can sign for a license for it?
The manager. Mhm.
The license would allow them to do all the work necessary, but if for some reason the governing body did not approve the easement, they'd have to pull out whatever infrastructure they put in there. They may not agree to that, but this is the only thing I can think of to kind of get past this 5-day break that they're going to encounter.
Any questions down here to my right? No?
What? No, let them continue to work. I have no problem with the license. Yeah, continue to work, why halt it, and then we'll do the public hearing on the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do we need a motion, Dean? Do you want to state it?
Yeah, I do need a motion to authorize the city manager to do that because we are granting a property interest. So if I just get a motion to authorize the city manager to sign and approve and sign a license granted to Dominion to perform whatever work is necessary for the relocation of that pole, subject to the easement being approved. And if they don't approve the easement, or you don't approve the easement, then they have to remove the infrastructure they've installed.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
One abstain. One abstention. Stacy? Motion carries. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
And Keith.
Thank you very much.
And Dean.
Keith, can I speak to Councilman Moore's earlier question? So, in terms of the ZOTA, the work by staff, tonight's resolution was just to initiate the process. This process will begin with some initial staff research into what other jurisdictions do, and also a lot of hard work and research into what the grading plan, the actual stamp drawing might cost and how to word that so that we can have a minor grading plan option for the residents. It's going to be a kind of lengthy staff research process, and then the actual language will go first to the Planning Commission for recommendation. We hope to have several work sessions with the Planning Commission about both pieces, the impervious lot coverage and the actual grading plan. And then we'll bring it to the body. So this is going to be a longer process. We don't have anything with legal right now. This is going to be a process that starts with staff research, goes to the Planning Commission, and then comes to the body.
I'm really excited that we're going to finally adopt a grading process in the city of Manassas Park. And the lot coverage will also, I think, answer a lot of people's questions and concerns. So I'm glad we're taking this on.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky. There's a whole aspect of how do we prove lot coverage, and usually you ask for a land surveyor or engineer to seal it, but we have to watch out for resident costs and things like that. I know I've been through the process, so it can be expensive to hire land surveyors and engineers, so.
Very. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for manager time? No? Dean, would you read us into closed meeting, please?
Yes, I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to discuss the award of a public contract for legal services pursuant to paragraph 29 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, we will meet in the back room in 2.5